Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to LearnHow Canada's Canadian Immigration News Weekly Live. Just going to wait to see if we'll have people joining us. And the purpose of this video is really just to educate you all and to pass across some of the news that and just kind of have a summary of the Canadian new immigration news that we've seen over the past week, 1 or 2 weeks. And of course, let me introduce myself. I'm Lola. I'm your Canadian immigration consultant. Yeah, we've got a couple people here that have joined us. Awesome, 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 awesome. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our live. We'll just wait a couple of minutes here to see if we'll have anybody else joining us as well. And this live will be saved. So if you aren't able to stay for the whole live, that's okay. You can always come back and watch the replay whenever you have a chance and whenever you're able to. And then you can always DM us for any questions or further clarification that you want about anything that I happen to share during this live, okay? Welcome, welcome. We've got Dimples Sims, Idowu Olayiwola, Jeje Loya Jr. Thank you for joining us. We'll just wait about a minute or so. Once it's 1:05 here, then we'll kick things off, and I'll just go over some of the things that I'd love to discuss with you guys, because I'm sure you've been seeing all the news going around about some of the changes that we've never seen before, at least of recent times. Just kind of that's been coming from the Canadian immigration and government as well. So thank you for joining us, everyone. Okay. So I think I'll kick things off with some critical updates about the Canadian immigration policy, some program adjustments that we're seeing. And so whether you're planning to, visit or migrate to Canada anytime soon, or even in the future, really, it would be good for you to kind of listen and keep an eye on and an ear out for when these changes are coming and what that could mean for your plans to move to Canada. The first topic that I'll be discussing here is the Canadian immigration target reduction for the 2025 to 2027 level plans. So that's been quite a big headline that came out in the last 2 weeks, and what we saw is basically that Canada decided to lower its immigration targets, and it's really in response to growing concerns about like housing and public services about what the country is going through right now, right? So they have a lot of temporary residents here, as well as people who are still trying to come into Canada. And so the immigration minister, Mark Miller, brought up this announcement about they're going to be revised targets. So very recently, usually, at least in the past, these immigration level plans have always been an increase. It's always increased the plan, always increased the targeted amount of people that they're looking to new residents for Canada, to move to Canada, or to become even permanent residents here in Canada. So we've always seen an increase. This is the first time that, at least in recent times, that they've decreased it, and it was a significant decrease from the 500,000 that was initially planned. So the target did drop as well. So that's some of the things that was making the news here. We heard a lot of people talking about this. People have been quite concerned about what does that mean for the current programs that we have here in Canada specifically. But despite the target drop, the express entry, they did a category-based express entry draw, and those things will still continue to help meet Canada, or they have the category based express entry draw, and that program will still be used to help Canada meet the economic needs. When we say the economic needs, I always tell people, the best target way to move to Canada, if you can, is through the economic immigration plans, which includes express entry. So that Canada will always have an interest to improve their economic situation by bringing in skilled migrants, so if there's skill sets that they're like, we're trying to bring people with this skill sets in, they will keep making those kind of programs specifically. Now they might reduce, the targets and the amount of people that they want to come through those programs, but the programs will stay there, at least from what we know in terms of the principles of immigration when it comes to economic immigration for Canada. So so yeah, this policy shift really, it does align with Canada's broader aim to balance its growth and infrastructure available. So they're looking at how are we growing, let's be honest, this is how companies govern. Like when you're in a company that's trying to think of the good of their residents, they're like, hey, like what is going on in our infrastructure? What is going on in our cities? Do we have the infrastructure to meet the demands of what our plans are for the immigration levels? And that's what they've done. They've done a shift and revised things, and that's why they came up with these numbers. And it's really, the goal is to help ensure a sustainable path forward for immigration. They don't want people to come in here and the infrastructure is not available for them. What's the point of leaving your country, moving here, and realizing that housing is a challenge, or jobs are a challenge, all those things that you are really, let's be honest, leaving your country to come to a better life here. Those are the things that they look at when they make these plans as well. So right now, those levels, the full details of the 2025 to 2027 immigration levels will be revealed as well. So we want to we'll keep you updated on all those information as they pass that across to the public. So all right, so if you have any questions about that, feel free to DM us or anything. And if you're looking at, okay, do I still qualify? The program that I was looking at, would I still qualify for it? Have there been any changes to that specific program? We can always share with you once we know more about your background. We can always have a consultation for us to discuss that as well. So that's the first topic I wanted to discuss. The next one is really the changes to the temporary foreign worker program. So there's been a lot of recent tightening of the TFWP program, the temporary foreign worker program. So effective October 28, 2024, the government has increased the wages threshold for the high wage positions under this program. So it means really many roles previously categorized as high waged may now fall into the low wage stream, and that would impact a number of positions that maybe employers were looking at. So the employers were looking at, bringing high wage positions to give LMIA and to give people an opportunity to apply for work permit through those programs. But right now, if they're considered no longer currently, it's now moved from high wage to low wage, there's a whole different pathway that the employers will be able to apply for help any foreign worker, any temporary foreign worker apply for under that program. So those are some of the things that we've seen. So even the low wage, which was generally some companies did not really preferred going on the high wage just because of the requirements of the low wage. So the low wage is going to face stricter regulations. So that's what we're going to be seeing, just a lot stricter regulations. They must provide transportation for foreign workers to their home country. There's even accommodation that's always been there for the low wage as well. Even, there's the recruitment efforts as well. That's always been there as well. But I think what we're seeing is that there's going to be just a lot more stricter employment requirements for the temporary foreign workers in terms of that low wage. And then they're wanting to make sure, I think what we're going to see is that we'll see a theme of where they're wanting to make sure employers have really prioritized Canadian workers, because that's really what it's about. When you're under the LMIA, the idea is that you've looked and you've done the assessment around, you've looked in Canada, in your city, as well, and said, hey, I'm not able to find anyone who has that experience to fill this position. So that's why I haven't found a permanent resident or a Canadian citizen. So that's why I need a temporary foreign worker to fill this position. So there'll be stricter guidelines with that and assessing that to make sure that the Canadian recruitment, the efforts for Canadian workers to receive that position has truly been done. So that's awesome. So that's something that we're looking at. Of course, a lot of Canadians are happy at this, so that's why I said that's awesome. But a lot of temporary foreign workers, they know that some of those jobs, Canadians and PRs are not able to. They don't have the skill set for that, for one reason or the other. So they are the ones. Temporary foreign workers sometimes are able to take on those positions as well. But that's why there's a process for that, and there's a process for employers to show that they've tried to hire a temporary PR or Canadian citizen. So yeah, so that's the other topic I wanted to discuss. Hello. I see we have someone else joining us. Gracie, thank you so much for joining. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put it in there. This is a live, but it will be saved. So if you can't stay the full live, you can always watch again later. So, and another news that I wanted to discuss as well is the express entry updates. basically. We are seeing some trends with this, especially this fourth quarter of 2024, and we think that that's going to influence 2025. So we're expecting that there will be, from what we've seen, people have done some analysis online about the trends that we're seeing in this last quarter. There'll be possibly in the next couple of weeks, there'll be fewer draws, but more targeted invitations. I've talked about the targeted category-based draws before. And those categories include, French language proficiency, skills sets in tech, in healthcare. That remains the focus from what we've seen, but also provincial nominations. And that's something that I'm hoping that we can delve in more in another live, because that's really the pathway that's really, it's always been there in terms of like the opportunity to come through the provincial nominations. But now more than ever, the provinces are a great way for people who especially are not meeting that express entry target score to be able to be a part, to get their the nomination and then their permanent residency through provincial nomination. So if you're falling into any of these categories, let's just make sure that we can assist you with helping you to keep your express entry profile current, because there will be draws. We're not saying that there won't be draws over the last quarter, but it's a game changer in terms of if you see that there is a skill set that you have, or there is a specific area that you might be able to get your own invitation through one of those targeted draws that we've talked about. So we know that the last quarter, however the draws go in this last quarter, it will kind of set a stage for what the 2025 early draws will be like, specifically. So that way, based on what the invitations that they put out, that's how they will adjust to how many more draws, the amount of draws that they want to see in that early quarter of 2025 as well. So this is this time is a very crucial time to make sure that your express entry profile is up to date, because we don't know the way things are going to go over the next 2 quarters specifically. So that's one thing I wanted to discuss as well. Touch base on express entry and what we're seeing as well. So if you have any questions about express entry, more details, reach out to us. Let's talk to you about that. Let's look at your profile, see where we can have you improve for your profile as well. And let's work together if that's something that you're interested in. Then the other topic I want to discuss is more of the other. I've talked about provincial nominations earlier, but I want to go a bit more, and probably there will be a separate live really dedicated to that and what we're seeing with the trends with provincial nominations. But I know people are usually wanting to move to certain cities when it comes to Canada, like Ontario, British Columbia, or even Alberta, Calgary. For those interested in the Ontario provincial program, which is the OINP, it's still been especially quite active. Recently, the Ontario streamlined some of their PMP options to work directly with express entry. So they're creating like 3 direct pathways to PR. And that's the one thing about, I always say with provincial nomination, it's always going to be an opportunity for you to apply for PR directly. So this integration with express entry means, faster processing, quicker paths. So usually provincial nomination, sometimes it's a standard. It's you get that nomination and you apply for PR through the provincial pathway, and it can be a longer time to wait to get your, sometimes it's averaging 11 months to get your PR through provincial nomination. But we know that there's also the express entry pathway as well. So Ontario has more programs that they've streamlined to work with express entry so that you can have faster processing times. Because let's be honest, if they're giving people those nominations, it's because they're seeing the need for those people to move to Canada as soon as possible to meet the economic skills that they're looking for to take on some of those positions that are lacking in Ontario, right? So it doesn't pay them for programs for people to apply and for it to take so long for them to finally get an outcome on their PR. So they've decided it's a strategy that we're seeing where they've decided to link more of their provincial programs with express entry. So like, for instance, like the tech and the healthcare fields have priority under Ontario targeted draws, which are very highly attractive for candidates who may not meet the federal skilled worker program requirements, right? But they might qualify under the provincial one. So like I said, if with your Ontario program, that's something that you can look at, for people who are looking to move in Ontario, if they have this background in healthcare or tech, let's look at your background and see if it's one of those programs that will fit for you as well. So we'll delve more into provincial nominations soon. I definitely would love to have a chat with people who are, we'll have a live where people can have that, like a current status update of what are the provinces doing and what are some of the pathways that you could be eligible for. So the other thing, another topic I wanted to discuss on this about the, in recent news for immigration is IRCC is really trying to update their processing times for several immigration pathways. So the pathways we saw during COVID, a lot of the processing times really took a dive where things where people are not getting updated fast enough. Like compared before COVID, you could get your PR within like 6 months for under express entry, even shorter. Some people had even done 4 months for express entry. But after COVID, during COVID and after, we saw that there was the processing times really took a dive where people were almost kind of like getting stuck in the system. So they've been revising their timelines as part of the effort to make processing more predictable and transparent for applicants. There is currently prioritization of family reunification, so things like sponsorship, family prompt sponsorship as well. We're seeing that those timelines are improving right now. Express entry applications, they want to stick to that. It's what it's called, express entry, right? When express entry launched, it was record time for people to get PR, right? So they're trying to move back to those those fast timelines that it used to be, which is really because if they want to make sure that they are aligning and contributing to these people are coming in to contribute to economic growth, especially for express entry applicants. Get them in as fast as possible so they can contribute to Canadian economic growth. If not, then what's the point of saying that we need a certain amount of immigrants and to help with economic growth, and then they're not meeting those levels on time. So yeah, if you have a pending application, just check IRCC websites. For the latest expected wait time, just say check processing times, and you just click one of your whatever application you've put in, and then you'll be able to get a realistic expectation for your application timeline, and as well as that information that you need. And also there's a phone number to reach IRCC as well. And a lot of people are, and I think I'll try to put it in here actually. Let me just put that in here. A lot of people are like, oh, in the past, I know reaching IRCC can be quite a challenge. So why don't we, let me put that number here actually. Reaching IRCC can be a challenge, but right now there's an improvement on that specifically. So I'll put in the number for IRCC in case anyone has any applications that they're like, hey, I want to know if I can speak to someone about this. They've been actually they've been giving people case updates on their application as well. So let me put that in here. Okay, great. And this is for if you're in Canada. That number is for if you're in Canada. And if you ever want to, yes, there we go. So that's the number that if you want to reach Canada, if you want to reach IRCC specifically. Okay, so to close out today's session, let's recap some of the points. So we talked about the reduced targets. We're seeing that Canada is aiming for a more balanced approach, fewer immigration spots in 2025, but they're still maintaining the category-based draw. So they're becoming more streamlined, more targeted about who they're letting into Canada, but they are reducing those targets that they had previous as compared to previous. Then the temporary foreign worker program, there's a lot of buzz around there, but they are putting stricter wage and recruitment requirements for employers are now in effect, emphasizing the importance of hiring within Canada. So they're like, hire within Canada, do the best you can to give their people jobs before you're applying for hiring temporary foreign workers. There's also the third thing we discussed is express entry. Once again, that targeted draws, which we're seeing in tech, healthcare, French proficiency, provincial nomination, really highlighting the need for applicants to stay competitive. And so, that's really why we want people make sure that you're being strategic about what you're going to pick when it comes to the skills that you want to highlight in your express entry profile. I can't tell you how many people are like, oh yeah, this is what I do now. And then as I dig more into my evaluating their background, next thing you know, it's like, oh yeah, I had this job I I don't know, like a nurse years ago, like within the last 10 years, because that would make them eligible for express entry. And I did it for 3 years. And you're like, oh, that you could be eligible for the healthcare targeted withdrawal. So making sure that you're speaking to someone, or at least you know all the requirements of express entry to see if you could fit into that, because they are being more specific about targeted draws right now. Then provincial opportunities, I would definitely be talking about that more in detail, but that's another thing we discussed right now, which is there are provinces that are constantly changing and adjusting their program, adding a program, removing it. They are looking at the economic requirements of their provinces and using that to say, hey, this is kind of what we want to, what we're targeting for. So you never know when that province will be the one to put a program that fits exactly where you have the skill sets to be able to receive some kind of nomination from the province for you towards your PR application. And yeah, the other last thing we discussed is IRCC's updated processing times. They're trying to become more efficient, really to aim to provide, improve applicant experience. I know that IRCC has been a bit, notorious sometimes for, long awaited results for their processing times, and it got worse even during COVID. But I think it's that hump, that they're kind of getting their stride back and trying to process in a more decent time and improve their processing times right now. So thank you so much for tuning into this live update. I hope this information really resonated with you. Feel free to share it with anyone else. We'll try to do this more regularly to bring you guys some of the trends and the dealings of what's going on and we're experiencing within the Canadian immigration space. If you have questions, you need guidance to navigate this immigration journey, can be very I don't want to use the word confusing, but it can be very, very elusive, in terms of what you're trying to, your aim is really just to move here or to visit or to study here. Sometimes it can be quite elusive and it's hard to figure out, what pathway works best for you. But don't hesitate to reach out. I'm Lola, a regulated immigration consultant here in Canada. So I'm licensed to do this, and I can definitely be of help to you in any ways. Look out for any future updates that we have. And we'll be in touch. Yeah. So I have a question here. Where can I email you? I was looking to work in immigration industry. Yes, you can email. Actually, I'm going to put our email address right here. LearnHow Immigration. Feel free to email me there, and it'll pass along to me. Thank you so much, Gracie. Thank you. This has been really helpful. I'm glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that as well. So let's get cozy. Let's get to this to be more regular and be able to speak to you guys more often about some of these changes that we're seeing and more insights as well, and even be giving you practical tips. I'd love to do that as well more regularly. So watch this space, and thank you so much for joining. You have a great weekend, and it was great to see you all. Bye-bye. You're welcome. You're welcome, Ido. You're welcome, Dimples.Sims. Just gonna end live. Technology, just a moment. Bye, everyone.